Good morning, everyone. Looks like we have standing room only here, which is fantastic. A few people are still coming in, so we'll look forward to welcoming them very shortly. It is my privilege to welcome you to CIBC's Defense and Resiliency Summit. I want to thank each of you for joining us. You are leaders, innovators, and partners who share a deep commitment to Canada's security and prosperity. We convened this summit to facilitate important conversations within this rapidly evolving sector and to help our clients navigate the many opportunities that lie ahead. Let me be clear, we recognize the urgency of this moment. We acknowledge the efforts and ambitions of both the public and private sectors, as well as our role as enablers of one of the most significant financing initiatives in Canadian history. I would like to start by recognizing a number of special guests. With us in this room today are members of Canada's Armed Forces, along with representatives from the True Patriot Love Foundation and CIBC colleagues who are veterans. Please join me. Thank you for expressing our gratitude for their service. Today's summit comes at a pivotal moment for Canada. Around the world, we are witnessing significant geopolitical shifts with real impacts for our economy, our clients, and our communities. And now more than ever, foresight, collaboration, and decisive leadership are essential. Global trade disruptions, shifting alliances, and an increasingly complex geopolitical environment compel us to revisit fundamental questions about our defense, sovereignty, and economic security. And this is not a time for wishful thinking, but a clear-eyed resolve and decisive action, a time for all those. Canada and its NATO allies have committed to investing 5% of annual GDP by 2035 to strengthen security, supporting both national and alliance goals. The Government of Canada's Defence Industrial Strategy anticipates over $500 billion of cumulative investment across the country by 2035. And these investments extend well beyond traditional defense spending. They include dual-use infrastructure, airports, seaports, energy, and critical roads connecting the North, as well as advancements in cybersecurity, digital solutions, and artificial intelligence, of course. These efforts will attract top talent, drive research and development, and create high-quality jobs for Canadians. Let me underline that point, if I may. Human capital is just as important as financial capital. Excuse me. We cannot afford to lose either. Young Canadians are just as vital to the future of this great nation as the next dollar of investment capital. And we risk losing them to global economies with greater potential for developing their future if we don't act now. And for many businesses within North American operations, capital for growth and expansion is flowing south. We should recognize these as threats to our future prosperity. And I believe that Canada is uniquely positioned to thrive, but we cannot afford to be complacent. We must invest in the next generation of nation-building companies and projects, modernize our infrastructure, accelerate investments in energy, and build our defense capabilities. These challenges before us are significant, but so are the opportunities. And at CIBC, we are partners in Canada's progress. We were founded in 1867, 2 months before Confederation, as the Bank of Commerce. We help businesses grow and key industries thrive. Today, we remain committed to supporting the physical, digital, and social infrastructure that will define Canada for the decades to come, and we intend to be there for the Bank of Commerce. We're committed to financing the companies and projects that will drive growth, competitiveness, and resiliency. And we believe this is a defining moment, not only for our clients, but for Canada as a whole. Our bank has always supported nation building, and we are uniquely positioned to help our clients seize opportunities in this new area of growth and security. The world is changing rapidly. Resilience, sovereignty, and economic security are no longer abstract concepts. They are imperatives for our future. The choices we make today will shape Canada's future for generations. And by working together with vision, determination, ambition, and shared purpose, we can ensure that Canada remains resilient, secure, and prosperous in an ever-changing world. And now, it is my pleasure to welcome the Honourable David McGuinty, Minister of National Defence, for his remarks. Minister McGuinty and his team are working closely with leaders across our defence sector to help advance Canada's opportunities globally in this space, and we are delighted to have him with us today. Following his remarks, I will join the Minister for Q&A session. Thank you all for being here. Minister.
Well, good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. C'est un énorme plaisir d'être avec vous ce matin. C'est un moment important pour le Canada, un moment très important pour cette réunion. Thank you to Harry Culham and the entire CIBC team for organizing today's Defense and Resiliency Summit. I've just come in from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, where we announced the future of our iconic fleet of the snowbirds. Don't worry. They'll be with us for a while. One great season. Make sure you get out and see them this year. We'll be replacing those aircraft with fantastic aircraft coming in from Switzerland, the Pilatus version, and I look forward to seeing that team practicing as soon as possible to do what they do so wonderfully for us. Thank you all for being here. And I want to also say I'm pleased to be joined this morning by my colleague, Member of Parliament, Chi Nguyen, who is a distinguished and hardworking MP from here in Toronto. I really enjoy coming to Toronto from time to time. I used to come here regularly to take my brother out behind the shed. Different time. He wouldn't listen anyway. But I'm particularly pleased to be here because I get to see my daughter Fiona, somewhere in the crowd. She's one of my toughest critics, and she said to me this morning on the way in, "Dad, whatever you do, don't tell anybody I'm here." I also want to as I've just, we've all heard Harry, I want to, before I begin, I want to recognize the members of the Canadian Armed Forces, the Canadian Coast Guard and the Civilian Defence Team who are joining us today. Thank you for your service to Canada. You know, the thing about being a member of the Armed Forces is there is no collective bargaining. You can't go on strike. You got your first major pay raise that we offered up 6 months ago since 1997. And yet you stick with us and you serve this country brilliantly. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you. This gathering today is important, as I alluded to. It brings together leaders from government, finance, industry, and defense to discuss Canada's long-term security and industrial resilience. It reflects an important shift and how we think about national preparedness. It's a shift I'm going to address now. Increasingly, economic resilience and national security are no longer separate conversations. They are one and the same. And the timing for this discussion could not be more important. As Harry alluded to, we're witnessing the most significant geopolitical realignment in generations. I spent last week meeting with my colleagues in the Gulf region, looking at what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz, sitting down with the ministers in Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. And here's what I've concluded, and I'm sure you are aware of this. State-on-state conflict is on the rise. Strategic competition is intensifying, and countries around the world are massively rearming. At the same time, defense supply chains are under pressure. Critical technologies are becoming strategic assets, and threats to our security are evolving rapidly across land, air, sea, space, and cyberspace. A country that cannot produce, sustain, or secure essential capabilities at home becomes vulnerable abroad. And a country that cannot adapt quickly to strategic change risks falling behind. That's why strengthening Canada's defense industrial base is not simply a defense priority. It's a national economic priority. In fact, it's a national defense and economic necessity. For decades, Canada benefited from a relatively stable global environment, a secure geography, and strong alliances. Today, those assumptions are under increasing strain. We're living through a period of profound strategic change, and Canada has to adapt accordingly. And adaptation requires more than investment alone. It requires urgency, it requires coordination, and it requires long-term strategic thinking about the kind of country we want Canada to be, in the decades ahead. In 12 short months, our government has taken major steps to strengthen Canada's defence posture and prepare for the challenges ahead. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is a massive undertaking, but we are making progress. We recently reached 2% of GDP in defence spending with a commitment to increase our contribution toward NATO's defence investment pledge to 5% by 2035. We delivered a pay increase of up to 20% for members of the Canadian Armed Forces, retroactive to April 1st, 2025. We recruited the highest number of new CAF members in nearly 3 decades. We launched Canada's first ever defence industrial strategy, drawing on the feedback from over 2,000 companies and experience in 17 countries. And we established the Defence Investment Agency to help accelerate procurement, strengthen industrial capacity, and attract long-term investment into Canada's defence sector. As an example, we were told at the beginning of the submarine procurement that the usual route would take 3 years. We thought that was unnecessary and unacceptable, so we made the decision to down-select to 2 suppliers in less than 5 months. We're now in full negotiations with 2 producers, and we'll see where we end up on that journey. Many of you will know that that whole effort is being led by its inaugural CEO, the agency's inaugural CEO, former RBC Deputy Chair Doug Guzman, who I think may be here this morning, but is certainly, I think, speaking later today. At the same time, we've aligned government tools and programs around a shared objective: to build a stronger, more resilient, and more secure and more sovereign Canada. It's a Canada backed by a thriving domestic industrial defence base, a Canada that remains a reliable ally, a country that says what it means and means what it says, and a Canada defended proudly by the members of the Canadian Armed Forces and the Canadian Coast Guard with the support and the equipment they need. Supporting the Canadian Armed Forces and the Coast Guard also means supporting the broader industrial ecosystem that equips them for the increasingly demanding work we ask them to undertake. Every capability, whether it's an armored vehicle, a counter-drone system, or a river-class destroyer, begins long before equipment reaches a base, an airfield, or a shipyard. It begins in research labs and universities, in startups and manufacturing facilities, across supply chains, and through the confidence of investors, lenders, and financial institutions willing to help Canadian firms scale and compete. That's why the Defence Industrial Strategy represents such a significant shift in approach. For far too long, Canada's relationship with the defence sector was shaped by fragmented procurement processes, slow timelines, and inconsistent engagement with industry. Too many innovative Canadian firms struggled to scale. Too many supply chains became vulnerable, and too much strategic capacity drifted elsewhere. The Defence Industrial Strategy is designed to change that. At its core, it recognizes that Canada's defence sector is not only essential to national security, it's also a major driver of economic growth, advanced manufacturing, innovation, and high-skilled employment. That's why our approach is whole of government and whole of industry. We're engaging earlier with Canadian suppliers. We're strengthening research and development. We're supporting our workforce growth. We're building resilient supply chains. We're deepening our partnerships with provinces, territories, Indigenous partners, universities, researchers, innovators, and industry leaders. In fact, as Harry alluded to, the DIS features an overarching commitment of $500 billion in investments over the next 10 years by 2035. We're also modernizing procurement, as I mentioned, through our Build, Partner, Buy framework. Build, Partner, Buy. What does that mean? It means we're going to build in Canada, where it strengthens domestic capacity, resilience, and long-term economic growth. Where we can't build here, we'll partner, but with trusted allies, where collaboration advances interoperability, innovation, and shared capabilities. And only then, if we can't partner, we will buy abroad, where necessary to deliver critical capabilities quickly to the Canadian Armed Forces. Our strategy prioritizes sovereign capabilities in 10 core strategic sectors: critical to our security and our economic strength. Aerospace, digital systems, ammunition, sensors and surveillance technologies, space capabilities, specialized manufacturing, training and simulation technologies, autonomous systems, in-service support, and personnel protection. That strategy is ambitious, and it's backed by concrete, measurable targets. Over the next decade, our plan is to ensure that 70% of all defense contracts let by the federal government are awarded to Canadian firms. We will grow Canadian defense exports by 50%, helping give rise to approximately 125,000 new jobs across the country. We will significantly expand defense industry revenues and create new opportunities for workers, innovators, and businesses. This is already beginning. We will strengthen pathways for small and medium-sized enterprises to compete, to grow, and contribute across the defense sector as part of prime supply networks or on their own. We're backing the DIS with real investment and targeted support for Canadian industry. Let me illustrate. BDC is deploying $6 billion in investment, financing, and advisory services to support the defense and dual-use sector. EDC has also expanded its support for Canadian companies operating in the space, helping strengthen export capacity and international competitiveness. But government investments alone will not be enough, not nearly enough. Our team has met with thousands of Canadian firms. I make it a habit of walking into small companies unannounced to find out what they're doing, what they're struggling with, what they're trying to manage through. And this is what they're telling us. They tell us that they're ready to scale, that they're ready to innovate, and they're ready to compete globally. But scaling advanced manufacturing and strategic capability requires capital, and that's where you come in. It requires institutions willing to think long-term, institutions willing to back Canadian innovation, institutions willing to recognize that investing in defense today is investing in our long-term security, our resilience, our prosperity, and our sovereignty. We're seeing growing engagement from Canada's financial sector and increasing recognition that defense investment is not separate from nation building. It's part of it because the infrastructure we build, the technologies we develop, the supply chains we secure, and the industries we strengthen will shape not only our economy, as I said, but our sovereignty. Let me be clear on this again. Government cannot do this alone. Building sovereign capability at speed is going to require partnership between government and industry, innovators and investors, public ambition, and private capital. Today's conversation is taking place at a moment of unprecedented global demand. NATO allies, along with partners such as Australia and New Zealand, are expected to invest trillions of dollars in defense capabilities over the coming decade. Countries that move early, build capacity, strengthen industrial resilience, they're going to be the countries best positioned to succeed. Canada can compete. Canada can win. We have a highly educated workforce, world-class innovators, advanced manufacturing capacity, abundant natural resources and energy, strong research institutions, and one of the most respected financial sectors anywhere in the world. The task before us is to bring those strengths together, in fact, to align them. We want Canadian firms to scale. We want them to compete globally. We want them to create high-skilled jobs here at home. We want them to contribute directly to Canada's security and resilience. At its core this morning, the message for me is simple. We got to move. There's an extraordinary opportunity before us. The world is not waiting. I see it everywhere I go. Our allies are moving quickly. Maybe more importantly, our adversaries are moving quickly. Strategic advantage can belong to Canada if we act with urgency and purpose. This is about the kind of country Canadians want to leave to the next generation. For just over a year, we've all witnessed a resurgence of pride and concern for the future of our country. Young people who in my view, have an affinity for the truth, are lining up a kind of project that they describe simply as Canada. A country that can defend its sovereignty, a country that can stand on its own 2 feet, a country that can contribute meaningfully to global stability, and a country prepared to lead in a more uncertain and a more competitive world. As I said earlier, a country that says what it means and means what it says. Finally, let me close with this. I want to thank you. Thank you for your business acumen. Thank you for your risk-taking. Thank you for your stick-with-itness. Thank you for your entrepreneurship, your creativity, your drive, and your care and concern for our future. And finally, thank you for helping us to get this right, because we cannot do it without you. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Excellent. Shall we have a seat?
Want me here?
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for your insightful remarks. And I'm sure the audience has learned a lot already. I'd like to dig into a couple of the topics, if we may. First thing I'd like to ask you a little bit is about the geopolitical environment and how is that impacting your approach to Canada's defense policy? You talked a lot about the DIS.
You know, the Prime Minister made it very clear in his speech in Davos that it's very important, maybe to start this way, to stop and examine where we are, what's happening around us, and make some hard decisions. And one of the decisions that we've made as a government is it was necessary for us to reinvest, rearm, pull our armed forces into the 21st century by making the right investments. It also, I think, compelled us, Harry, to understand that we're stronger together with a larger number of partners. In the last year, we've executed 20 new agreements around the world, including 6 or 7 in the defense sphere alone, where we're cooperating now more directly, more meaningfully on the defense front. Just last week in the UAE, looking at a new agreement there in terms of materiel, foreign direct investment, advanced research in artificial intelligence, quantum, cryptography, areas where Canada happens to be extremely strong. So I think what we're seeing is a bit of a shakedown. We've also, Harry, been able to find our way into the European Union. Prime Minister's strength, reputation. We're the only non-European Union nation to get into the SAFE agreement. You're aware of that. 160 billion euros to start in phase 1. We get to participate in that procurement. A wonderful and major marketplace for us. So we've decided to take some of these steps. Step number 1, reinvest. Step number 2, diversify more bilaterally. Work with like-minded countries, smaller countries, and you know, we all know this. If you walk into another country and you're carrying the Canadian flag, you're generally very well received and trusted. And so that's what we're doing.
Thank you for that. Again, insightful. We talked, or you spoke about allocating 5% of GDP towards defense spending, and that's, if I have my calculator in front of me, that's a big number, 130 billion perhaps annually. This reinvigorated approach to defense investment, how do you see that as an opportunity for Canada's economy and our global standing?
It's massive. Let's be practical. Bucket number 1, 33 bases in this country are being rebuilt, top to bottom. Electrification, water and wastewater. We're building 7,500 homes. We're buying apartment buildings. We are procuring kit, generator systems. This is going to have a major knock-on effect on the local economies around those bases, Harry, and elsewhere. $3 billion in Esquimalt to handle our incoming fleet of submarines. $3 billion in Halifax to handle our incoming fleet of submarines. That's just one procurement, one sector. So there's a major impact on our economy in terms of being an economic generator through any of those investments. Number 2, it's the size of the marketplace. Now, the private sector is going to have a much better idea what defense needs. What are we actually requiring as we go forward with advancing technology, rapidly advancing technology. So we'll be able to indicate to the markets clearly this is what we want to procure. We hope that transparency is going to help you align your decisions as you deploy capital. And on that front, Harry, we're going to be building 6 to 8 separate research classified hubs. We launched the first one in Halifax in the maritime space. We'll be looking at new ones in AI, and other material, other weapon systems, ammunition systems. That's going to compel a lot of investment from the private sector. Looking at joint ventures with other countries, other companies. So I just see this opportunity as massive. And the question is, how do we make sure that we get the best of the brightest minds in this room, right, to engage and deploy and participate.
Fantastic, and that maybe speaks to areas of natural advantage. And how can we double down in those areas of strength and really maximize our impact and our leadership?
By doing things like this, by beginning, my mother's mantra. Saturday morning, she would give you your chore list. You would balk, and she would say, son, the best way to begin is to begin. Go do your work, come back and see me. I think this is one of the best ways to do this. Study the marketplace, understand what we're trying to do. We want to work with you. We need to work with you. We need to work with you. We need to have you engaged in this journey. It is a whole of government, whole of society, whole of private-public sector alignment. I think if we do, because this is what I see happening all over the world. Harry, I've become a real capitalist. I'm shameless. I'll sit across the table from a minister of defense in a foreign country and say, hey, we happen to have 2 or 3 major Canadian companies here bidding on a contract. Just wondering if you could resolve this before the meeting's over. And they're not used to this because Canada's been a little bit more reserved on this front. But now we're much more overt. All of our defense attaches, Harry, are coming into Ottawa tomorrow. For the first time, we're bringing them in from around the world. And they're going to have their skills improved in terms of their roles attached to our embassies, working with our trade commissioners to promote Canadian products and processes and research and arrangements. So this is the pathway that we're on, and we really hope you're going to join us.
That's just excellent. And I maybe just offer up a comment that this public-private partnership you speak of has perhaps never been better in this great country of ours. And we thank the government for that opportunity, and we look forward to being extremely helpful. And maybe lastly, you have an incredible audience here, as you can see, Minister. What message would you like to share with this audience today? Investors, entrepreneurs, public policy experts, and other key stakeholders, of course.
We can't do it without you. That's the message. We can't do it without you. We're in this together. We're 42 million strong. And the Prime Minister talks about a rupture. I like to think of it as a new beginning, a new relationship. We need to work together, and we need to bring the Canadian people with us. People are very, very concerned about their futures. They're very concerned about the country. We're introducing a new idea in Canadian society, which is this question of our military, our defense needs, our capabilities, the threat landscape we're facing, and our industrial base. These things are intersected, and they have to be better intersected. And when I talk this way in a church basement or in a community hall or with people on a base, like I did yesterday in Saskatchewan, people instinctively get it. All of us get it. So we need your help. We could really use your help. We need your feedback. We need your advice. We held a banking roundtable, Harry. CIBC was there. We had about 18 or 20 banks. And we just put it on the table and said, what systemically do we have to get better? What are the blockages we have to overcome? Export approvals, global affairs, or security. We're working on those things. About this. I know this is in some ways a difficult thing, Harry, for the banking sector in Canada, because we don't, and your shareholders don't often talk about defense investments, weapons systems, nitrocellulose plants in Quebec, or TNT manufacturing, all things that we're now executing on. But I'll be really blunt, we don't have any choice. We need to move forward now. We need to look out for ourselves. We need to continentally under NORAD, our integrated air and missile defense systems. With respect to the Arctic, we're making huge investments, and international. We are leading the 14 multinational grouping of military anywhere in the world. We're leading it. We can do this. We are doing this. So we need your help. We would really benefit from your advice.
Thank you, Minister McGuinty. Really appreciate it.
Very much, everyone. Thanks for being here. Very appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Wonderful.